struggled to read the book and try to understand what it was about. I just couldn't get it.
Well, let's start. Yeah. So, well, what did you think? Did you say you read all of it or not?
Yeah, I started to read the first version. You sent the second version, like the full one, but my computer wouldn't download it. So, yeah, it was too big. So I just kind of scanned through the first one, but I just couldn't get what it was trying to convey.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes it happens, I mean, that's the way it goes. All right. All
It
right.
was kind of weird.
All right. Let me put you on there. Okay, go ahead. All right. Yeah, it's one of those, I'll say this, the British and Australians would call it a Marmite work.
Marmites.
Marmite, yeah.
Yeah, okay, a Marmite. You mean this comic?
No,
I haven't.
a Marmite work, a Marmite thing. It's something you either like it or you don't like it. It's no in between.
Oh, all right,
you get
okay.
it or you don't get it.
Yeah, they called it Vegemite in Australia. They do use the name Marmite for other brands. Yeah, nothing like, a bit of toast, a huge mound of butter, and some Marmite on top.
Yeah, and if you like Marmite, then great, you can have it. But lots of people just will never ever get it and like it, and no, it's just never going to work for them. And that's just the way it is.
Do you think they used to throw it out after the brewer's use, but then you can make the public eat it? Well, so far so good.
Yeah, we don't have Marmite in North America.
That's where you've gone wrong. That's why you guys always look so depressed. Not enough vitamin B, obviously.
Maybe. Well, maybe. I don't know if I've ever tried it. I don't know if I've ever had the opportunity to try it. Yeah, we don't have it. So, there's Salmon. Hey, Salmon. Salmon Kalik. Okay, welcome. Glad you're here. Okay, well, yeah. How long ago were you here, Leah? What was the last one that you were here from? Because I honestly don't remember. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It was I just stayed for part of it. It was a discussion about Freud. And then I had to go.
Not this group.
No?
No, not this group.
Oh, okay.
No. We've talked about a lot of things, but Freud, no.
Okay.
Well, when I say group, I don't mean the meetup group itself. I mean this Friday night comic book reading group.
Oh, I see.
I don't mean the whole meetup. I mean
no.
Friday night meetup.
Oh, the Friday night is a comic night.
We're doing comics every Friday night here.
Oh,
that's what I meant.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. No, I've never been. I've never attended.
Okay. All right. So now I understand with everybody being new. Yeah. What I've been saying to everybody who comes in who's brand new, I always say, well, I've kind of just been choosing comics randomly. I try to be receptive to what people like, and Stephen and I have already talked about what we're into, and we've done some interesting stuff in the past. I chose this one particularly pretty much at random. I'd heard good things about it. I'd heard it was interesting. I wanted to read it. I hadn't read it before. I thought it was let's do it. I didn't know very much about it, but I heard it was good. I heard that it was dark, and I heard it just was on my to read list. So I said, all right, let's choose it. And I've been choosing these at random the whole time. I don't even know what we're going to do next week. We can talk about that maybe. So I thought this would be an interesting choice. And I know I hadn't read it before. I don't know very much about it. I heard it was dark, but I heard it was very good. So I decided to do it. And
unfortunately, I've only seen some images of it on the screen.
Right,
it doesn't seem to be anything to read, really.
Right.
free.
Right. It. So yeah, I think this is the sort of thing. Now that I've read it, now that we're going to talk about it here, this is the sort of thing that's going to appeal to you, depending on your taste, depending on your sense of humor, depending on how you uh, uh, take in art and what you think a good work of art is supposed to do, or supposed to be, or supposed to do for you. And yeah, that's gonna be an individual. Well, like all art, I always say it's gonna be, yeah, it's like music. You either like it or you don't. You either like it or you don't. You either dig it or you
And
don't.
I assume the theme is a state of melancholia.
There is some of that. Yeah, there's some of that.
Oh, there's just some of that, is there? All right.
Well, there's a lot going on. I think there's a lot of. I think it's playing on a lot of emotions in the work. Yeah, I mean, obviously, art is very subjective. You're never going to have everybody agree something's great or something's not. I liked it, but then, as I said before here, I have very Catholic tastes. I just want a work of art, a movie or a TV show or a novel or a short story. Just show me what you got. Show me something good. Show me something interesting. I'm not too critical, really. Some things are just so terrible, but if I can get my teeth into a lot of different types of art. I liked this. I thought it was. I mean, yeah, it depends on your sensibility. I mean, if you are into this type of stuff, a lot of people would say, "Oh, wow, this is great. This is wonderful," and a lot of people will be repulsed by what's going on here. But I think I think this. I would say that this has value. It's something like this. It has value more for just the shock and horror of it all, of just, oh, it's these these fairy tale creatures and all this horrible stuff is happening. Okay, that's a cute idea. That's kind of, I was going to say, that's kind of like an idea for, like, a Saturday Night Live sketch, or something from Mad Magazine, because you never see Disney fairy tale creatures and fairies and all this horrible stuff happening with eviscerations and gore and just, yeah, I mean, okay, that's fine. And you either like that or you don't, and it might be offensive to some sensibilities. I'm fine with it. It's no problem for me, but I can see why it wouldn't connect with a lot of people. And I don't think it's trying to just shock you. I really do think the story and the book, is trying to make a point, several points. It's trying to get across a certain idea. And, I think a lot of the contrast with the style of, doing this illustrated children's fairy tale book style, contrasted with the horrible things happening in the story, is part of the point. I mean, there's some points that it's trying to make about society and about civilization and about human nature. I think there's enough here to make it a worthwhile work, worth reading, and worth talking about. It has value, I say, according to the way I think it has value. So that would be my intro to this. I mean, it depends on how we take it, I guess if you're a fan of that kind of, fairy tale story, and because this isn't in any way traditional, it's deceptive. It presents you this, lush, gorgeous, we can talk about that. Certainly the artwork is just gorgeous, absolutely. But it presents you with this intricate fairy tale children's book world, and then it's just so unrelentingly dark and grim and horrible, all the stuff that's going on here. I mean, you either think, what the heck is this, or you just laugh at it, or you say, well, okay, yeah. But that's going to be everybody's reaction, as any book or movie or TV show. It either works for you or it doesn't. So what would everybody like to talk about? I could pull it up. We could go over it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd need it put ups and discussed because I'd have got almost
Yeah.
nothing to go
Yeah,
on.
I know how to work with you, Stephen. I've dealt with you enough. No problem there. Yeah, but I guess Leah, this is your first time. Yeah, any reactions to the part you read beyond just yeah, it didn't work for you at all? Nothing at all?
Well, it just felt to me, because I'm new to the cartoon idea, it just felt to me that it jumped around quite a bit. And I thought, well, what's going on now? Like, this is out of context. It didn't, for me, because I'm more used to novels and that type of thing, and it just didn't flow for me.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's just a new theme. So I'm trying to broaden my mind, right, my senses, and to learn more about the comics and that. So I thought, well, this would be a good start. I can read this and see what it's about, see what all the interest is. But I just found it was difficult for me
Gotcha.
because it didn't seem to flow
I got you.
for what I'm used to.
I got you. Sure. No, that happens a lot with people come here and they say, yeah, they're brand new to comics. They've never done a lot. And that is kind of a lot of the reason why this group is here. This Friday night reading group is exactly that. We're going to go over the best of the best. And while we've been doing this, and we've only been doing it 3 months or so, we've done some really good ones so far. We've done From Hell and, well, other ones you wouldn't know the name of. So, but yeah, comics, they're like movies, they're like books. There's thousands of them out there, and some of them, not obviously not all of them are going to work. If you're brand new, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I would recommend this one as a first one to start with. That's true. Okay, I can see what you're saying there. But yeah, I've always said in the time that I've been doing this Friday night reading group, I've always said I think that the comic book medium is just magical. I think it's a wonderful medium. I think it's a medium that can be as effective and powerful and as moving as any good novel or any good movie or any good TV show. I really think so. It's a medium that can get across effects that you can't get across in a movie or in a book. It's its own thing. It does its own. It has its own effects. It does its own effects on the reading experience.
Yeah.
And I've been reading comics my whole life, and I think there are ones that are every bit as well written as any good, well-written television show or any well-written movie. And the artwork is, runs the gamut, from very minimalist to very ornate and experimentalist and
Okay.
so on. Yeah, there's a lot of great comics out there, and obviously not everyone is going to work for you personally. But I don't think the stigma of comics being a medium that's just trash is a medium is a reputation that's deserved. It shouldn't be there. I think comics is as good of an art form as any other. So and of course, if you're brand new to comics, like you've never read a comic before, again, I don't know if I'd choose this one as the starting point, but yeah, you may have a little bit of trouble, as you were saying, figuring out, okay, what am I supposed to do next with the next scene, and so on and so on. There are mechanisms that you do have to pick up over time, but it that's easily done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just think it's a beautiful medium. It's a beautiful art form. I really think it's magical. There's beautiful works to be experienced in this form, and that's largely why I started this group. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's good.
Okay. I think every artist approaches things differently. I think you'll have a lot, of different reaction depending on the work, depending on, who it is. Everybody's read like newspaper comics in the newspaper,
Right. Right.
Garfield, and that's one form of the form, but yeah, you can, a long form comics, have their own ideas about, how to go from scene to scene and how to make transitions and so on, and, we can we can get into that more if we need to. Yeah.
Well, I just couldn't follow the story.
Right. I got you.
I just,
I got you. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So we've been talking a lot. Let's say hello to new people. Shreni. Hey, Shreni. And Aaron. Hey, guys.
Hey, I didn't get to read it, so, but I did want to just at least listen to what people had to say about it. It looked very intriguing. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to be more prepared from now on.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Hey, Aaron.
Hey there. Nice to see you guys. Part of my tardiness, I did read the book and I really loved it. It really spoke to me on some level. The dark part of my heart and soul, I think. So I followed the whole thing and really was pleased to find it. Thank you for recommending it.
Well, that's great. Okay. So 1 for and 1 against. Yeah.
What was the previous feedback? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, what we were doing was, we talked about the group a little bit, and yeah. Okay, let me ask you, Aaron. Yeah, are you new to comics, or have you've read comics before, right?
I would say I'm fairly new to them. I don't read them regularly, but I love stories.
Okay, well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here, and I hope. Yeah, as I was explained before you came here, this is a comics reading Friday night group, which we've done a lot of interesting comics, and we're going to do some more interesting comics. So I hope you stick around.
I did want to say I'm not new to comics. I was with another group before the virus, and I have read some dark comics.
Yeah,
I can't remember their names though. I can't remember names of anything. They were great though.
All right, yeah. I think it's a magical art form. I really do, and I'm hoping we can get through some good ones, and we'll talk about that later if we can. All right, so I forgot your question, Aaron.
Did I ask a question?
What was I seem to recall? Yeah, you were saying. Does
anybody else remember?
It was. Yeah, I think before you came here, I think I said there's your reaction to this comic is going to be depending on your sensibilities, depending on how you. A lot of people coming here. How your sense of humor. I think there's some depth to this. I really do. I think there's some. It's talking about the human experience. How we treat each other. How the casual cruelties and sometimes not so casual that we all inflict on one another. I mean, you could say it's shocking. I think it's intended to be shocking to some degree. I think it's intended to, at some point, obviously the effect is supposed to be, oh my gosh, what is, why? I wasn't expecting that. Yeah. I mean, obviously that's clearly the effect they're trying to go for, but it's not just for shock value. I think they're trying to make a point. I think they are trying to, I think a lot of the contrast between the presentation style of the beautiful artwork and the darkness of the story really is a large part of the intended message. I actually have a list of this topics. I don't have it in front of me that I was going to talk about if we ever get to them. One of the things is, there's a lot of things in the story that all the characters are just, completely oblivious to, just completely ignoring. And I think there's a good metaphor there for a lot of our lives. All the horrible things and terrible major issues in our lives that we know are there and we just ignore every day, week by week, month by month, and year by year, and they just build and build, and you could also apply that to the rest of the world. We know we've got huge issues in the whole planet, and we're just, as a society, we're ignoring them.
I noticed one image with a dead girl and the little pixies or whatever they were found her marbles. She'd left some marbles and they're wondering what the marbles were, and the dead body was there, but they were ignoring it.
I think the one I don't know if there were marbles, maybe there were maggots. The maggots on the floor. Yeah. Yeah.
David, can I ask a question? When you say things that we're ignoring, I'm not sure what you're talking about specifically, but I saw the for instance, the dead body as an obliviousness. They didn't understand the
Yeah.
meaning of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ways we could interpret and analyze what's going on. I mean, on a tangible level of what's actually going on in the story, because they don't give you any real ready answers like you would expect in a Disney movie, do they? You don't really know what's really going on. They don't really tell you. Yeah, they leave it up to your interpretation, and that's fine by me. I don't mind. I think a lot of great art can be ambiguous, and there's a lot of ambiguity here. They don't give you any hard and fast answers. What's going on? Yeah, I mean, do any of these people see what's going on? There's obviously a dead body there, and do they even know? Do they understand? Do they? And it doesn't seem like they do. And they're ignoring just these horrible, horrible things that are happening and everything that happens to them. I mean, now they're in this new situation and all these horrible things are happening. And, and they just seem like, I don't know what I would say, autistic even, they're just so oblivious to all this stuff happening. Yeah, it's like I said earlier, it's like a Saturday Night Live sketch, or it's like something from Mad Magazine. It's so unbelievable that they're having these.
Well, hang on.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the normal.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
We were brought up the wrong way.
That's
Maybe it's all that Christianity, all that sort of stuff that got to you, and we've got to think hunter-gatherer here. That's our natural selves as a hunter-gatherer. Yeah. The only natural technology to us now is fire. We've evolved with fire over 1 million years, so that's all it is. So you're walking past a dead body. Do you eat it? I mean, hunter-gatherers typically, hunter-gatherers would resort to cannibalism quite regularly.
I think there is a little bit of that in the comic as well.
What it could be is that
yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
No, sorry, I was just gonna say that that's how all our communities work. There's always when there's a group, there's a group think, and the group think overpowers any individuality. So if no one person is strong enough to say, hey, there's a dead body there, then no one's going to be the first one. So they're all going to pretend they don't see the dead body.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say there is a potential metaphor there for how we're all acting today. I mean, we know there's huge, huge issues just staring us right in the face every day. Just, turn on the news. I mean, it's right there. I mean, make a list, in the environment and political and et cetera, et cetera. You know the list as well as I do. And a lot of it, I mean, sure, a lot of people are talking about it, but not the majority. I mean, people are just oblivious to all these horrible things. And it's, gonna hit us hard in the upcoming decades, if not sooner, as it did for these people. So I think there's a potential metaphor there.
I'll add that the arc of the story, in my interpretation, it was really relevant to me because it mirrored what I felt was going on at the beginning of the shutdown. There was at first sort of a, look, we're a civilized society, just like these characters come from some sort of civilized society, right? They come from this place where they place a premium on being courteous and considerate of others. And slowly through the story, you see that arc devolve into a more natural state, like Stephen was saying, a more natural cannibalistic state. And I think it really mirrors what's happened to us today, is that we're seeing our neighbors devolve, we're seeing ourselves devolve in certain ways and let go of certain courtesies that we had held on to. It's really, really relatable. That's what I found relatable about the story.
I really think there's a lot in there, and I really do think that's what one of the points they were trying to make here. Yeah, I mean, if these things go wrong, your next door neighbor will kill you in an instant for your meat. I mean, if the grid goes down, well, we can. I mean, I've already had lots of conversations about these issues. But yeah, yeah.
Considered very rude to eat people you knew personally. Amongst us hunter-gatherers.
There's some decorum to be expected.
Yeah, well, it's a factor in history that the taboo against cannibalism is something that arose with the agricultural society.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, or because of the constant, generally, you know, if you're growing grain or something like that, you can store it up for the bad times. So the resort to cannibalism became a rare occurrence. But in pre-agricultural societies, you find a lot of evidence. Or even Europe. Seems to have been quite widespread prior to the introduction of agriculture.
Oh, there's lots of ways to be human, and we don't even know it. But yeah, there are lots of ways to be human. The human experience is much more varied than we, in our modern civilized world, really think about. Yeah, but yeah, this is what happens if your whole society breaks down. Yeah, what if the electricity grid went down and stayed down? You know, I mean, what would people do? You know, I know what would happen, but we don't want to get into that. But what would people do? You know, all the, you know, niceties, the civilized things, you know, I mean, geez, I mean, it would be chaos, you know, if the electricity grid went down and stayed down, you know, I mean, food started running out, my gosh. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, you're right. All those civilized decorum, yeah, that'd be gone.
It would mean those dwelling on the fringes of the modern culture, the preppers, the crazies, the schizos, they would be the new normal.
Oh, remember Y2K? Does anybody remember that?
Oh yeah.
Anybody old enough to remember Y2K?
I think there was an airport in Africa or something that went down.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, there's very few incidents.
I remember that, and everyone is hopping up and down about that one, and nothing happened as far as nothing really major, like they were saying was going to happen. I still don't know if I ever anybody get a good answer for why, but I don't know. I'm not a computer person, so I don't know.
Well, you do remember the what the case was.
Oh yeah, I'm old enough.
So, yeah, the time cycle they had was just a century long.
yeah, but they were saying it was going to screw up everything, and it didn't. So, but well, maybe they got to it in time. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe they all just fixed the problems in time. Maybe that's what happened. Yeah. But anyway, at the time, everybody was saying all these horrible apocalyptic scenarios of what would happen. Yeah, and so maybe, you know, I think there's something to that in this book here about, you know, all our civilized niceties and our politeness, veneer of politeness will just vanish when all that takes, you know, because what happens in the story is, of course, they turn bestial, you know, on each other, you know, and I don't know if I got the sense that it was because of, you know, the fact that the girl that they were all living in, you know, was murdered, and so they had to relocate. I got the sense that, you know, they were pretty much that way to start with, but now they just, you know, had free reign. They could indulge themselves. I mean, all the backstabbing and the pettiness and jealousy and all the just, yeah, terrible, you know, all of the cruelties of human nature.
Lord of the Flies scenario.
The Lord of the Flies, yeah. I read a lot of reviews of this, and they always brought that up. Like they said, it was the one I got many times in many different reviews was Animal Farm meets Lord of the Flies. Yeah.
I wanted to ask. I actually got a real Mean Girls vibe too, of course, on a very shallow level. But I wanted to hear men versus women, if you guys felt that same vibe, because I know as a woman, it really resonated with me, just the Mean Girls vibe that was going on with that main fairy who was the the evil fairy, and
Exactly.
and that, the extent to which she, I guess, manipulated, you could call it,
Yeah.
Aurora, and that the scene with the wedding on
Yeah.
the full page was just so powerful to me and so hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious because that it's all just a story, but also heartbreaking and traumatic on some level,
Yeah.
in the way that people treat each other in relationships. So it really touched me on that level too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. It is hilarious. It really is. I mean, it's meant to be. I think it's meant to be hilarious. Yeah. I mean, this is. I mean, depending on your sensibility and your sense of humor, there's a lot of funny stuff happening here with everything. I mean, yeah, it's like a sketch. It's like a Saturday Night Live sketch. But yeah, yeah, Zelly is just petty and status seeking, and she just wants to be the queen of the whole situation, and yeah, it just does her in. But of course, I mean, spoiler warning, I guess, this all comes to where we're going is the ending, of course. What happens, what ultimately happens. Spoiler warning if anybody cares, but I mean, what ends up happening is, of course, Aurora, for all her goodness and kindness, ultimately, it's a choice between her personal survival and or the survival of her morality and her ethical compass. And of course, she makes the choice. And she chooses it's better that she be alive. And but she does so at the cost of her soul. I mean, it's such a dark ending, of course. But they narrowed her down and boxed her into the choice where, yeah, it was either them or her, and she had to make that choice. And it's such a dark story. It's very, very dark. But I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. I mean, we Americans just get so used to a diet of just endless, Hollywood movies where there's always a happy ending. You got to read European books and you got to read European cinema or European comics to.
Yeah, I've noted that. I've noted that. It's like the film The Vanishing. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Oh, it was a Dutch film with a tragic ending, and Bruce Willis starred in the American version of it, which has an ending where the hero succeeds rather than fails.
Yeah, no, a Hollywood blockbuster movie, you can't have a dark ending. It's got to be a happy ending, and we just think all stories have to have happy endings. This definitely is no happy ending.
Of course, we're getting into Nietzsche territory here with the birth of tragedy.
I just want to say that the Joker had a dark ending and did very well with the got recognized. There couldn't be a much darker ending.
Okay.
I'll probably disagree.
Right,
That
it
was
did.
still a relatively good ending for the Joker. He didn't lose. He was the winner.
It's
He'd
a good
become
ending for him.
winner then. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right.
But deep down, I mean, like, that's the beauty of America, right? Like, the optimism is why it's such a great place and everybody wants to be here. It's like the land of options and opportunity. And that felt maybe not Hollywood. Hollywood's bullshit, but like, that's the message. Like, there's a happy ending. And, I have tons of friends who escape to depressing ass novels, and I don't want to read one of them. Like, I don't want to read that. I'd rather read fantasy. And when I read fantasy, there can be darkness in there, but kind of you're still itching for the happy ending. Like Game of Thrones was so great because it tortured your soul and brought you to, like, all your favorite characters died, but in the end you still wanted a happy ending for somebody.
Yeah. As I said before, I have wide tastes. There's a lot of, I like all sorts of art. I like all sorts of stories. I think, not everything has to have a happy ending, but I enjoy Disney movies. I enjoy a lot of Hollywood movies. I do. And I enjoy dark stuff too. I think there's room for both,
I'm with you. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
It needs to be well done.
Yeah.
Good characters, but
That's right.
Where it goes, that's not as important.
Yeah, all I say is just tell me a good story, you know.
And do it well. Tell it
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
I also want to mention my interpretation of the ending because I didn't see it as a dark ending so much,
Okay.
even though, I mean, I know that's probably a strange statement, but I felt that the character of Aurora achieved a new level of consciousness where she overcame her own her habits, her civilized habits that had almost held her back. And in a sense, she overcame them through some sort of insanity, I think. I mean, you could call it like a bout of insanity. And in fact, I saw her as insane at the end. And the way that she spoke, to the giant as her husband, she obviously was having a mental break at the end. And I felt almost like it was a way for her mind and her consciousness to escape the reality. And in a way, it was a beautiful, breakthrough, at least as far as, number one, survival and overcoming her own commitment to these niceties and courtesies that had really harmed her over the course of the book. So I saw it as a hero's journey, that the fulfillment of her own hero's journey by the end. I didn't see it quite as a tragedy per se, even though, because the bad guys, kind of lost, and I saw that as positive.
I could say, okay,
I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, I could go along with that. I think I could. Yeah, it depends on, what you think is a more, higher priority. Yeah, I mean, you certainly, she ends the book as a survivor. But when you're saying that, like, that reminds me of Brazil, the movie. Remember that?
I have not seen that, but I want to. That was by Terry.
Terry Gilliam.
Terry Gilliam. Yes, and that'll be on my list now. Thank you for that reminder. Tell us, without any spoilers, can you tell us how it was similar?
Well, no, see, I don't know, because no, watch the movie. Yeah, you should watch the movie. It's really good. It's a great movie. Yeah. But anyway, so what your higher priority is, and you're saying that her personal survival, that she, takes care of the problem, which is obviously, if she does not take action, these idiots are just going to kill them all. They're all going to die. So it's either her or them. And, she makes a choice. But what I was saying before was that's an ethical boundary that she didn't cross before, that now she has crossed. And I would have said that really destruction of an ethical and moral compass of right and wrong is ultimately what it ensures that she will physically survive. But yeah, she now, at the cost of, who she was, she was a kind and caring person before, and now she very much is, not. And, she had to murder these people.
If you look at it through the lens of the hero's journey and Campbell's theories, I sort of think of it as she rejected, at the end, she had to reject what she believed was her source of life. And prior to going through this journey, her source was structure and civilization and politeness and niceties and all of the, courteous patterns that she had created. And essentially she had to reject that. It's the same as, having to go, and, the Star Wars.
Dogs.
Sorry, dogs. It's the same as the Star Wars theme of, finding your father and having to destroy him. In a way, you could see her as having destroyed the civilized order in order to create a new consciousness.
So my question, Erin, does that, doing that, bring her up to a higher level or a lower level?
Well, according to the hero's journey, you have to break through you have to get through the belly of the beast, which is where you're either going to die or you're going to kill your source, what you thought was your source. Am I right about that? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scholar. I'm just.
Well, I'm a Jungian, and we do use the hero's journey, but part of the individuation process is to eventually come back and give back to the collective. In your ultimate growth is after your hero's journey, you bring back your more authentic self to give to the collective. And if you don't do that, you haven't really fulfilled your individuation process.
And I would argue, and just not that I'm really stuck on this, but I would argue that her commitment to the giant, who actually was in a way kind to her and supplied her with food and supplied her with warmth and a home, she then became committed to the giant. And in a sense, you could say she brought that same nice, the nice, polite qualities, she brought them back in. So in other words, she did sort of bring him back her, how did you say it, Afton?
Well, her individuation process brought her back to giving past herself. And I think
how I see it, but
I haven't even finished the book, so I just got it last night. So what you say then makes sense. I hadn't gotten to the part with the giant and so on. So yes, I'm looking forward to, with your perspective, going on and finishing it tonight.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made for your interpretation. The thing about the giant, I mean, I still would say, though, if we take that interpretation, and we can, I still would say that it's a rather dark story, because that relationship with her and the man is still one way. I mean, he doesn't know she's there, and it's all entirely in her head. I mean, I still think that's rather dark, and she's still effectively alone, except in her mind. And of course, I don't think we're meant to sympathize with the man, given what gets revealed, potentially,
That's very true, David. I agree with that. And I sort of saw it. I mean, I think you could say we don't really know what happens after that, but she certainly is in a descent into madness at the end. Yeah. I mean, she's in the same state as, let's say, what was the Jack Nicholson movie from when he goes insane, not Cuckoo Nest, but the other one where he's in the mansion in the winter.
Shining.
The Shining?
The Shining. Thank you. And at the end, he's in the, he's in the snow and he's obviously going to die. So that's quite a darker ending than this, where yes, she's mad and she's gone completely insane, but there's still hope. I think. I don't know. I felt like it was hopeful, like she could come out of madness. Maybe that's my personal belief.
Well, not having read it, what you're saying makes sense in the individuation process, because you have to go through a crazy period to come back to your authentic self. And even that's like Dante's Inferno. You have to really go down into the darkness in order to come back up and have the bigger wisdom. So in that, what you're saying is this could be unfinished. And like many good things, you get to finish it however you want.
I mean, yeah, again, I'll repeat myself. It depends on, do you think Aurora was at a higher state than she was at the beginning of the book, or was she at a lower state than she was when she started the story? Yeah, I guess, Aaron votes for, she's now at a higher state. And, okay, I mean, that's a valid interpretation.
then you have to get into what is a higher and lower state. What does
Yeah,
that?
well, because what I'm saying is physically she survived and physically she's out of danger. I think, again, as I said, which is the higher priority? The fact that, she's now safe and in a good place than she used to be. That is true. But in order to do that, there was a cost. She had to sacrifice her moral values. She had to sacrifice her ethical compass. And she can't, and she's now in a,
Well,
I think there's a reason you could make that argument, but there's also a reason you can make the argument that she is now at a lower state than she was when she began the story.
I think I'd like to hear Apton's thoughts on this, but I think through the Jungian lens, you would view it as simply that she reached a new level of consciousness, and that there's no judgment per se as to whether it's higher or lower, but that
Exactly.
it's a new way of viewing the world, and she's bringing that new way of viewing the world, her new elixir, she is bringing back to this new relationship she now has, and this, even if it is insane, and but yeah, it's a non-judgmental view of whether it's higher or lower.
Right. We need to put the judgment aside and look at what is it saying about her own journey, development. Journey equals development in the hero's journey. And you have to go into darkness in order to get past it and come out to some other place. So just from what I've read and what I've heard, it sounds like she needed to break away from all the society, all the structure that she had been conditioned to part of, in order to see who she really was authentically. And something had to be murdered along the way, which, if you look at fairy tales and myths, that's often what has to happen in order for the protagonist to come back and really be authentically themselves and hopefully give back in some way.
I think the other key area to look at in this tale is the anima and the animus, I guess, or the.
I was just going to say that the giant
the feminine and the
animus.
masculine, energies, and actually, a lot of the, you see the interplay of the feminine and the masculine in the relationship in the beginning, where she has this boyfriend, Hector, and then you see that relationship change as a result of Zelly coming into picture, and then there's that relationship with Zelly and Hector where there's that conflict, and of course he dies, and then I think what you see is Aurora discovering her, help me, which one is it, anima, because she's a woman.
The animus.
And so she discovers her own animus, which is the individuation process, and therefore she becomes a whole person by integrating her feminine side with her animus. That's what you see at the end.
Relating to what you're saying, even though I haven't read it, it seems like the giant is probably representative of her animus. And when she's giving to him, which I haven't read it, but that's what you've said, she's in a way owning, loving, caring for her own animus.
That's right. I think so.
You're
really
making me
so.
see this. This would be a wonderful book to present to some of my Jungian groups.
Yeah. Let me know, Afton. I'd love to hear you do a presentation.
Okay, well, I'll put my info in the chat. I've been thinking of doing a Game of Thrones meetup group to look at it from a Jungian perspective, because honestly, I've been addicted to Game of Thrones. I'm on my third round of both the series and the book.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's so in my psyche, and I really want to help people who don't understand it see how profound it is from a psychological and Jungian perspective. So
I liked the first two seasons, but after that, I felt it was generally on the downturn.
Well,
Yeah,
you know what? I'm
terms of
one of the
quality
few
of drama.
people who love the way the series ended it. I did love season 8, and I know I'm almost in the minority. I'm almost stand alone
Yeah,
there.
a little bit I've seen of season 8, I'm totally out. That'd be the worst one by my.
Well, I loved it so, and I want to explore it from the dragons and the Jungian, the whole, just what we're doing here. Look
I
at,
thought the best episode was the last of the second season when, what's his name? The guy tries to take back the kingdom.
well, there are many guys trying to take back the kingdom and Daenerys.
What was his name? Stannis Baratheon? Or was
Stannis
it?
Baratheon?
The one that had the
The
witch,
brother
the
of-
witch
of
helping him out.
Robb.
The red witch was
Yeah.
helping him.
That's Stannis.
Yeah.
And then the witch is the dark feminine. It's coming in. Anyway, that's beside the point of this, but it's along the same way of saying, how can we learn from this mythologically and apply it to us? And Game of Thrones is so relevant today. If you look at it, it's really allegory or metaphor for what's going on all around us.
Well, where have you been? I mean, I'd love to have. I've actually been talking about doing more than just this Friday night, and we do have a movie group.
Oh, this is a great time for me because I'm so grouped, overloaded on group. But this
Oh, really?
is the
Okay.
time that I do. No, I'm always into more.
Yeah,
as long as the timing works, scheduling works.
No, we have a movie group. We are welcome to have a great Jungian.
I'll put my email in the chat.
I like literature. I like books. So yeah, I mean,
I'm in 5 book groups.
I hope you stick around. Yeah,
Okay,
well, I'd like to join. Are they online? Are they in the meetups?
Oh yeah. Proust, and we read all different things besides Proust, but we're on the some of us on our 3rd time round of the 6 volumes of Proust, and I'm reading Metamorphosis right now, and The Castle. Thus Spoke Zarathustra. This is all going on simultaneously. So
it looks like you just joined on Sunday.
I joined because I don't know how I found you, and I ordered the book. From whatever this, I clicked to Amazon, I looked at the description of the book, and I said, oh my God, got to get this. This looks phenomenal.
Well,
so here I am.
Yeah, but you're on the Modernist Fiction Group, which is in Chicago. So I'm going to
I just joined that one. I just joined that one on a recommendation from someone else. I haven't actually attended that one yet.
Yeah.
After I also joined, I was in the Castle group as well.
Oh,
So
really?
Yeah, I was in the Castle group, and I also, I think we all got a recommendation from Dave.
David, Brownstein. Yeah.
He's
then
the one
have
that
we
recommended
talked with
this group.
Have we talked with each other before?
I talked on Sunday. Maybe I looked.
So did I.
Yeah, I was there. I had a question though, because Carmen mentioned something in the chat about the Dark Night of the Soul. And that's a topic that came up recently between me and some Jungians, because the Dark Night of the Soul is often misinterpreted, and I don't know the right interpretation. But I'd love to know, Carmen, if you could pinpoint the Dark Night of the Soul in this book, Beautiful Darkness. Did you have a thought on that?
Well, I was actually asking if what Afton was referring to earlier, if that was the Dark Night of the Soul. When Afton, when you mentioned about going deep into the darkness and going through that, I wondered if that's if it would be fair to say that was a Dark Night of the Soul. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Say a little more.
A little while ago, when you were describing going into a very dark place, through difficulty, etc., I wondered if it would be fair to say that was a dark night of the soul.
Yeah, I think so. And in order to really know yourself, we have to go into the shadow, which is where you go through the dark night of the soul is that feeling of annihilation, disintegration, alienation.
Mm-hmm.
And so there definitely is that
mm-hmm.
sense of this happening here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Owning your shadow. We call it owning your shadow. And our culture is very good at denying the shadow. You know,
Mm.
they just don't want to until it erupts like it is today all over the place.
right, right. Yeah, so that's what I meant, Erin. You know, the language that Afton used, I was like, oh, that sounds to me like the Dark Knight.
Well,
I-
we look at things. Go ahead.
Oh, my interpretation of the Dark Night of the Soul is what happens after you've made it through the belly of the beast and you've either killed or you've been killed. That's my understanding. And that after you've made it through and you're sort of in that almost numb place where you have to think about what just happened, you know, and that sort of grieve the death of whatever happened. And I think in this book, I'm actually looking at it right now. You know, there's a very short
I can pull it up.
period. Yeah, I mean, I think on page 91 when she, after it's clear that the stove goes up in flames and she's killed her enemies, her adversaries. Then you go to 92 and the Dark Night of the Soul is very brief, but essentially she sort of views the aftermath and then decides pretty quickly that she's going to rebuild things. She goes almost into a state of I think you could call it insanity. You could, or maybe it's relief, you know. But I think, and I could be wrong about this because I had a conversation with some Jungians where everyone said, well, a lot of times the Dark Night of the Soul is I don't know, I can't remember what we decided, but it's a little bit tricky understanding that specific part of Campbell's theories. If someone has,
for me, it's a feeling place. It's a feeling. It's not it's not so much the place on the journey as the inner place of. It's very existentialistic. It's really feeling like not seeing the light on the other side, being trapped in the cesspool and seeing no way out. That would be my own way of interpreting it, but it probably has room for a broader perspective. And every hero's journey has a place of the Dark Night of the Soul. You haven't been initiated until you've gone through that. And some people say what we're going through right now collectively is the Dark Night of the Soul collectively.
Pretty dark.
and I think there's also, I need to look into this further, but there's something called the belly of the beast. And that also could be, that could be someone else's reference. I'm not even sure if that's a Campbell reference. But the belly of the beast is arguably where you're really in the middle of, you know, sort of confronting your shadow, confronting your adversaries and deciding and, you know, coming to terms with, like in Star Wars, they say it's where the, you know, the walls are closing in, that sort of feeling, right? And I don't know if that's the same as the Dark Knight is, so I'm not sure.
It feels the same. I mean, the feeling feels the same.
Yeah.
Not seeing any way out. So it sounds like it's just a different metaphor for the same place.
Would you be open to a humorous meme talking about these topics?
Humorous
You'll have
meme?
to say more what you mean.
You want to share it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, this
Oh,
is
you're gonna
this is a
screen
humorous
share
book.
Okay.
I can,
So I just put it in the chat and I'll translate. I saw this meme on social media that I was reminded of talking about these things. So the words are in Spanish and what it says is, this year is hard, but we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And that picture is the light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, so
Light that thing.
Do you see it?
well, I
Nice.
clicked it. Oh yeah, here I guess it's coming up. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes.
So
Well,
I
this
was
is very
like,
Well,
now.
I had that in mind, Erin, and then you mentioned Star Wars, and I'm like, oh, I gotta share this.
From Rogue
Talking
One.
about the light at the end of the tunnel.
That's from Rogue One.
2020 humor.
Yeah, it's true. And I think I've seen similar memes where, or just even outside of 2020, where people suggest that the light at the end of the tunnel is actually a train, coming to hit you head on. And it's, but I actually like that meme better, Carmen, because if the light at the end of the tunnel is actually your shadow, like Darth Vader, then you still have a
Oh.
chance to fight him and overcome him, right? It's
Yeah.
not imminent that you'll die in a crash or something.
And yeah, and Erin, also in the coaching methodology that I have been trained, what I have been trained on is we don't want to destroy any part of us. We want to embrace and welcome it and love every part. So let's love Darth Vader, our personal Darth Vader, and it can we can become friends.
And I think that's what Aurora does at the end. She embraces the dark side of herself to the extent, for the purpose of survival, which is the highest good of an individual per se, I suppose.
Well, the individual has to survive in order for the society to survive, or the collective to survive.
Right. And what she does is she by the end, she's integrated, like we said, the shadow into herself, even though it appears like David said, it's hard to stomach. It's hard to stomach that level of that throwing away of what felt like was truly a part of her. But I think the argument of the book is that it wasn't a part of her. It was society's.
It was yeah. Everything you've said suggested it was society she had to throw off.
Mm-hmm. And that in order to really truly find her true source and her true nature, she had to integrate that dark side, and she did it by the end. So if you can see it as that analogy and that metaphor of sort of the hatching and becoming a new being and entering a new world, it's very positive.
Yeah, it sounds extremely positive. Good. I'm glad I'm glad everything you're saying, but I'm glad to be able to finish it tonight and already have this perspective.
Yeah.
Light at the end of the tunnel, did you notice the significance there? The significance is the lightsaber is a false lure. This is what, it's necessary to watch out for in the world. A person like Adolf Hitler, for example, was a lure. He could lure people in. And there's a lot of people like that in politics. They
President Trump
appear to be what you want, something that attracts you, but what's attracting you, that little light, is just a lure,
Right. So what would you say? I guess, okay. I guess I admit I didn't think of it in those terms. I didn't think of it in that way. I kind of grasp a hold of the idea of, what would have been the ethical choice? What would have been the ethical choice to do? She does commit murder. In those situations, would personal survival have trumped, an ethical response? I'm not convinced that I would have done that. If it's a choice between you surviving or committing murder, I'm not sure I would go through with it.
Well, the research shows that the further away you go from your significant family, the easier it gets to commit murder. In other words, so you go to the other side of the world and a totally different culture, and it gets much easier than if it's a family member. And if it's your own child, most people would definitely.
That's fine.
Oh.
That's fine. Yeah, and you're never going to get a right or wrong or yes or no answer to this because these are issues of ethics and morality and of ethics. Morality does have a yes or no answer, but ethics doesn't. But yeah, I mean, you would just have to question, yeah, but is that truly the right thing to do? I mean, you may have ensured your physical survival, but at the cost of, yeah. I mean, it's basically you've murdered other people. So.
Well, David, but in the book, I think they present it to show very clearly that number one, she had no way out. She was facing if she were to leave, she didn't have that option. She would have died in the cold winter with no food and no shelter.
Yeah.
And then they also showed how if she had succumbed and sort of submitted to this new power structure that was being forced upon her by this mean girl and all of her followers, it probably would have killed all of them. And they explained that because she was trying to warn them that they couldn't do things they needed to follow her rules. Otherwise, the giant was not, honorable and kind, and he was not welcoming them, at least not to his knowledge. And if they had proceeded in their plan, they would have all died. So what's better from a moral standpoint, everybody dying or everybody else dying and her surviving?
Yeah. Well, you would say her surviving is the better option.
Well, one person surviving or everybody dying. I mean, you have to say if she really believed that she could survive, which apparently she did.
Yeah, I got you.
It's a tough argument.
I think it is. A lot of people would probably go along with it. A lot of people would. I think so. And, me personally, if it were presented to me in that exact way, I'm not going to say that I'm not in any way capable of murder. I can't say that. There's plenty of situations I would be capable of it. In this particular situation, I think about it. I really would think about it. And I don't think I would. I don't think this would be worth it. Even if it did mean my own personal death. I don't think I would do it. I don't think I would choose, but I think a lot of people would. Yeah. So,
well, they also say that we really don't know what we would do until we're in that situation.
Yeah.
People surprise themselves in both directions.
Yeah.
And I think the other consideration is that this is actually a lawless society. There is no order. There's no law. That she couldn't have called the police. I mean, in our society, it's unfathomable to think of a situation in which we couldn't call for some sort of authority to help or to right what was going on if we were truly,
I think there are many groups that feel like they can't.
Yeah.
That feel like it's unsafe.
Well, that's true, Afton. No, I don't mean to say that everybody feels like they have full and equal access to authority, but in this book, I think it's presented as there is no authority anywhere. There's nowhere to go. There's nobody to go to for anybody.
Yeah.
There just simply isn't a system in place. It's complete. What's the word you use, Stephen? But it's just
anarchy.
it's nature. It's savagery. Right. That's the nature of this world that they're in.
Hunter-gatherer. The hunter-gatherer era.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm just wondering, so I haven't read the story. So she comes to this situation and she's found this cabin, which is warm and has some crumbs of food. There's a giant living there. What's the upshot with her companions? Why does she see them as dangerous? What was the trouble she thought they were going to create?
So she had actually, with the help of the red-haired girl, they had sort of established a pattern that enabled them to live in harmony with the giant. So the giant was a threatening figure, but they found a way to live in harmony by sort of following certain times of day in which they would go down and grab food, and respecting his boundaries effectively. And the new adversaries who came in and decided they were going to also live in this really comfortable, warm home with food, they did not respect those boundaries, and they clearly had an agenda where they were going to do it their way. That was going to be that was the threat that I think Aurora felt. Am I right about that? Did anybody else interpret it that way?
No,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think-
I completely understand there. Yeah, that makes absolute sense.
yeah, I think you got it right. Yeah.
It's rather Hegelian in a way, but that's the impression I get from the Hegelian view of the world, that he's into these giant structures. And they say the existential rebellion against Hegel was that the existentialists are trying to carve out a place for the individual in a world of giant structures. And now we're living it, huge buildings, huge corporations, that smaller, more familiar world of the 18th century where everything was cute and small, although it was tough. But today we're just overshadowed by the giants of our world. So I'm just wondering, I get the suspicion that this comic's picking up on that.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. That's a good input.
Yeah.
We're in the land of the giants, if you remember the old TV series, the Irwin Allen one.
Hmm.
So, what's the issue with these Lilliputians? Their world is dominated by the giants. The giants are the source of power or warmth or food. And in a sense, these Lilliputians have a limited control over their world. The giants are the commanding force.
That's an excellent point, Stephen.
It
Thank
is.
you
Thank
so
you.
much
I
for
really
making
like
that.
that.
It's a great point.
Okay. I did read a lot of reviews, analyses of the book, and I do have my list. I brought it up finally. There's an interesting point that somebody made, I thought, is that at the end, of course, yeah, here we go, spoiling, but you already know. At the end, of course, she ends up finding comfort and shelter and safety with the giant. But, she's finding solace in, the giant. But this is, after all, the man who murdered the girl in the first place. So he's the reason for the whole thing to begin with. So it kind of meets itself at the end of the book. It circles around, of course, because he's the one that started the whole problem in the first place when he murdered the girl. But she finds solace and comfort in the cause of of the whole tragedy. Well, I think
Where in the story does it say that he murdered her? I didn't get that.
the doll at the floor, the doll with the bashed-in head. Okay, it's not explicitly clear, no, but there's enough context there to tell you that. All right, you're talking about a decomposing body that must have been just a few meters away from him, and he's walking the path regularly. He must have, if he wasn't the murderer, he would have discovered her. He would have smelled the decomposing body. It just makes sense. And the smashed head of the doll on the floor. It's not explicit, but there's enough contextual evidence.
Right. I see that now. I didn't think of it that way, but I just thought it was a bizarre guy. But you're right. I think that's the implication.
Yeah. So the only solution to her ultimate problem was the cause of the problem to begin with. She finds solace in the one who brought the whole world apart to begin with.
Well, that's like the abused child often finds comfort in the abuser parent because they have no other alternative.
There's a lot to this. There really is. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, we did talk a little bit about the contrast between the style and the content. I think they get a
Well,
lot.
that was before I joined. Would you mind repeating it a bit?
Well, I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
no, it is. I just
presented in this gorgeous. The artwork is just gorgeous, lush,
is.
beautiful. Well, it's in the title, isn't it? It's in the title, Beautiful Darkness. I mean, for goodness sake. I mean,
that's what actually drew me, the artwork drew me to investigate further.
Yeah. It's this beautiful, lush artwork, presented in this, fairy tale children's book style.
I'm going to read it with my 10-year-old grandson, and I'm going to see what he, how he sees it.
Yeah.
You sure you want to do that?
Yeah, he's very precocious. He's reading Game of Thrones, and yeah, no, it'd be exactly his kind of thing. He'll love it.
Well, I think also the contrast between the politeness, especially in the beginning of the story, where she's so they're above and beyond, normal gestures of politeness. They really go, and even when they first discover that they're in this new world, they have basically a bread line, and it's a certain way that they do things, and they're so kind. They're kind beyond what you would expect in those early stages. And the contrast between that and the extent to which they attempt to extend their kindness and politeness as compared to the savagery that's really going on is what's really devastating and also just shocking about this story. And so true, just so true that it's so difficult to. I just saw a quote from C.S. Lewis today saying that men do not know how hard it is how difficult it is to be kind to be good until they actually have tried, and then, I mean, I'm botching the quote, of course, but there's this, it's difficult to be kind, period. And you don't know the extent of your own evil until you've really, really tried it.
Exactly.
That's the two clear issues which occur in the development of the Christian church, that the Christianity grew out of Judaism, and the ideal in Judaism was to be a person of good works, be good to your neighbours, and score all those brownie points for heaven or whatever it was. And the Christian church continued in that fashion in some places. Like they say, the Church of Antioch was very much that traditional charity orientation, whereas the Gnostics, a lot of influence the Church of Alexandria, was the Gnostics asked the question, okay, the church says we should go and do good works. The Gnostics say, do we really know what good is? And this is a question because, that's always a question in religion. If there's a good God in heaven, why is the world such a wicked place? And so the Gnostics wondered, what's really going on here? They're looking outside the box of the Christian Judaism. So that was the two questions there. Do I follow the path of good works, or do I really start thinking about, is there more to it?
It reminds me of the modern maxim, no good deed goes unpunished. Something I really relate to a lot in my
That was
family.
in the series Blake 7 as well.
I like that.
I love this show called Blake 7. It was a British series made in the 1970s. It was sort of like the British Star Trek. It was made by the BBC, like Doctor Who, shoestring budget. But the Federation's an evil dictatorship, and the good guys are the rebels that steal a spaceship to fight the dictatorship. But they're often at daggers drawn, and that line was actually used in it. No good deed goes unpunished.
David, what were some of the other points in the reviews that?
Oh yeah, right.
can you
Carmen
post-
wanted a copy. Yeah, Carmen, what meetup group are you from?
Unmute yourself.
What's the name
Let
of the
me-
meetup group you're from?
let me tell you, the Toronto Philosophy Meetup.
Toronto, of course. Yes, okay.
Mhm.
Toronto.
In Toronto, Canada?
I actually joined during the pandemic. I am in New Jersey.
Yeah,
And
but that's where it originates from. It's great. This Zoom world is great.
Right? Yeah.
There you are.
One Zoom to rule them all. There's somebody made a comparison with the ring wraiths out of what was it, the Tolkien stories. That Zoom is the power of Sauron, and we've all been possessed now. Lord of the Rings, that was it. So, you know, one Zoom to rule them all instead of one ring to rule them all.
Okay, Carmen, I just sent it to you on the meetup messaging.
Thank you.
Yeah. I do have one that I thought was interesting. If I can find it now. Oh, yeah. One line. Understanding we can be destroyed by what we love doesn't mean we can't help but find it beautiful anyways.
Wow. Like that.
But the other one was, here we go. Okay, the comic does not end with any liberation from images, but with one of the fairy tale characters even revealed to be mindlessly in love with the benevolent image of a sinister patriarchy that would surely be hostile to her existence if it deigned to even notice her. The characters, aware of the danger around them and the folly of the images they are surrounded with, are ultimately no more empowered by this information than any other character and meets no better a fate.
Well, that's actually an issue, is the aesthetic. It's something, of course, somebody like Nietzsche raised in the principles of culture, that a lot of people, when they discuss what are the good things to do for our civilization, the aesthetic gets ignored. Some existentialists, of course, believe the aesthetic, creating beautiful monuments and beautiful buildings, was the thing that inspired people to be good. And it seems to be neglected from the standard view of authorities. So that's the draw card, the beauty.
Say more. What you're saying is interesting, but I'm not quite sure I get it.
For example, the Christian church, when it, to create its moral consciousness in the civilization it was serving, it's cathedrals, grand artistic works, beautiful music. I'm claiming that the thing to keep the populace good, to make them believe in doing the moral thing, that somehow beauty was a part of the deal, to create beauty and to show beauty. And when I listen to the authorities these days, they're going on about all these moral ideas, but
we've lost the beauty. I agree with you.
So, Stephen, how does that relate to this story? I'm trying to understand where beauty.
That's in the title, Beautiful Darkness. So I'm just wondering, what's the aesthetic? This is what the beauty is, the aesthetic.
Hmm.
I'm not sure I mean, I hear your suggestions, and I'm not sure I'm totally seeing the relation with the story.
Well, that's the claim of the title, that in this darkness is a type of beauty. Now, I haven't read it, sorry to say, that I'm very intrigued now after hearing all this. I looked at a few images, but somehow it's claiming that in the darkness there's a beauty, unless I've got the concept of the title wrong.
I think you may be right about, I mean, certainly, I think you're onto something as it relates to something David said, which was that review about how essentially she fell into, at the end, the patriarchal, what did they call it, David? Sort of the patriarchal default, if you will. And I think that was a really good point, because even though we see her, and I would still argue that she goes through the hero's journey and she integrates her animus, and that's a beautiful thing from a, you know, Jungian perspective, it still at the end shows her defaulting to the patriarchal image, which I think you could just call it the state. You know, I mean, he sort of represents the state and the structure of authority. And I think I think you could say there's a beauty in that, because at least she has some sort of security, and yet it's dark. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess where I'm going is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, you know, survival is at the bottom, and then you go up to, when you're getting to issues of ethics and morality, those are much higher. But yeah, survival is, of course, you know, the most important, you know, depending on, you know, in the sense that you can't have an ethical structure if you don't have, you know, food and shelter and all air, and if you're not alive. So in that sense, okay. I guess, you know, the you know, I mean, it would be, yeah, it's a question is, yeah, which is more important, you know? I mean, if you think that, yeah, it is more important to stay alive, then that would be
Well,
the
but
natural,
David, there's
yeah.
another question I think you can ask, because, for instance, in this story, Zelly, who really is the person that Aurora has to kill, I don't think she would have killed the others if she didn't have to, and maybe that's up for debate. But she has to kill Zelly, because Zelly is threatening to kill all of them, really.
7 o'clock.
And Zelly has already killed 2 people at least. So she's effectively a murderer. And if you know, you have to ask yourself, am I willing to kill someone who's already killed 2 other people? That's a different ethical question than, am I willing to kill in order to keep myself alive?
Yeah.
In a neutral sense, you know, people that you don't know or whatever. But she's already been proven to be a sort of an evil threat.
I wonder if that's part of the beauty as well, you know.
I think some of the beauty is the concept of going into your shadow, and in a way that's very deep, beautiful work. If you look at a nightmare, it's horrifying, but if you go into the images and the oops, sorry, I stepped on my dog. You go into the images and the incredible richness of it, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess, I mean, yeah, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, there's lots of things you could say about this story that might be considered beautiful. Either the darkness is the darkness inside of human nature, and is that beautiful? And could be, or the darkness is the nature itself, the natural world itself. And, you know, nature doesn't have any right or wrong, it just is. And maybe that's considered beautiful. The darkness of, yeah, the situation itself, and finding the beauty of it, which maybe you could say she does at the end. Mm. One of the reviewers I read was making a lot of talk about as we were talking about, the difference between the style, the presentation of this children's book, fairy tale world, and the darkness of the content, darkness of the story itself, which is, and that contrast between those two is a lot of where the energy comes from, I think. But more the point, the reviewer that I was reading makes a point. I might as well just share it to you. The reviewer here makes the point that the dissonance itself is what the comic is about and how it is about it. We are told the surface story of these characters in a particular vernacular that through a consistent style that only rarely wavers, but what is consistently conveyed is not a story we usually associate with that children's fantasy style, but something else. The discrepancy of style and content exists as a warning to the reader to beware the power of the seductive image. The cute character may not be so cute when it's starving. The attractive young lady may not be sweet and safe when she's afraid for her life. The adorable animal may sooner peck you to death than be petted.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
Oh, that was my point from earlier on, wasn't it? Beware the lure.
Our civilization is driven by images, saturated by images designed to manipulate us to our detriment. This is the story of advertising, the story of human overconsumption that threatens our viability on this planet. We are slaves to imagery, and to think that powers have not realized that fact and have not endeavored to capitalize that is naive. As the title makes clear, Beautiful Darkness is composed of beautiful images, but then very explicitly hides beneath those beautiful images a constant threat of violence and betrayal for those creatures stupid enough to believe the image and not look for the reality. So that's the veneer of politeness and decorum and manners that they're all following, but it's just a surface pleasure. Beautiful Darkness is redolent with surface pleasures, but it is itself a warning about the lure of those very same pleasures.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Who wrote this?
This is, I believe, Abe Stevenson, I believe is his name.
Can you send us a link?
Abe Coleslaw from Savage Critics, the Comics Experience, Savage Critics.
Wow.
Comicsexperience.com/Savage Critics. Abe Coleslaw.
I think what he's saying here, or maybe he's not saying this here, but I think this reminds me, the effect of the story reminds me of something that Alan Watts says, and probably a lot of people have said this, but he's a philosopher, and he says, basically at the end of your, journey into philosophical inquiry, the ultimate lesson is that there is no way out. And I think this book is a really good example of that. This is effectively a journey into the philosophical basis of society and the veneer of politeness and courtesy that we extend to each other, and how in the end she breaks through it, but she doesn't come out with this beautiful new world. She comes out discovering that now she has to deal with a world where it's also dark, and she's coping with it the best she can. But basically, there's no way out of the darkness on this earth.
More realistic, you're saying, viewpoint, yeah. So then it ends. The comic does not end with any liberation from images, but with one of the fairy tale characters even revealed to be mindlessly in love with the benevolent image of a sinister patriarchy that would surely be hostile to her existence if it deigned to even notice her.
Wow.
The characters, aware of the danger around them and the folly of the images they are surrounded with, are ultimately no more empowered by this information than any other character and meets no better fate. Understanding the power of images over us doesn't mean that we are freed from their power. Understanding we can be destroyed by what we love doesn't mean we can't help but find it beautiful anyways.
Wow, I love this reviewer. I'd like to see other reviews he writes.
Oh, the delight of those SS uniforms. I always wondered what it was about.
Say what you want about the Nazis, but they had great architecture.
Well, they made
what
great
was it?
movies too, unfortunately.
I remember, there was a guy who was a Marxist at the time of the Nazis, and he was critical of the Marxists. He said that the trouble with the Marxists is they're a miserable bunch. And he looked at the Nazis and he looked at their line, strength through joy. And the Marxists just didn't get that. The Nazis were the beautiful darkness, joy in the in the grimness.
And they loved Wagner. They really embraced some incredible art and music, which has always been interesting, bringing together of opposites.
Yeah, I don't know, but the appreciation of Wagner varies with people. I like some of his stuff. Some people hate him.
Well, irregardless, he is considered, quite a genius in his music, whether you like it or not.
I'm gonna see. I think I did read one review that made a mention that Aurora's very first encounter with the man, I mean, she's very literally naked. She's vulnerable. And it's just such a, I mean, I think that's, metaphor made literal there, isn't it? She's entirely defenseless. Entirely, to the point where she's literally naked, which I think is,
I think I missed that.
an interesting point. Right, when she, I mean, it's just the vulnerability of her, and it's just overwhelming. But she's literally powerless in the face of him. Yeah, I mean, that's just to drive home the point. Yeah, there's a lot of little things like that, I think, around here. Yeah.
Where does she find her clothes in? So she's got a pretty get up. Is that the pretty dress now? So.
Yeah, and why are you crying? I don't know. I don't feel so good. Yeah, exactly. I think that's just supposed to be a, isn't that just supposed to be like a dead fly, I think? Maybe. Maybe it's just the welling of emotion of all the situation that she's been in. And it's just overwhelming. Maybe she's like suppressing too much, potentially, maybe.
So that was the opening scene, was it? So she just appears out of nowhere.
Who?
Aurora just appears out of nowhere, does she?
No, in the beginning of the story, these are all characters who live inside this girl, who is now a decomposing dead body.
So it has the story of the girl shows her alive at some point, does it?
No, it does not.
All right.
No.
So I'll confess something. When I saw the event description, I did not understand the format of what we would do here tonight well, so I didn't get to read this thing. But as you're showing these images, what is coming up for me is this looks like Alice in Wonderland to me. Did anybody get a similar impression, or was there, is the author of this, did he or she have an intention of.
I think you're absolutely right, Carmen. I mean, I think what's happening is these fairies have
Mhm.
fallen. They haven't followed a white rabbit, but they've fallen down a hole of sorts. They find themselves newly uh, in this new world, and there are a lot of opposites, and it is very reminiscent of Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland.
Absolutely.
There's
Yeah.
so much
Thank you, Carmen.
contrast with what's
Yeah.
presented and what's the truth. Now, I have a question though on
Okay.
page 47 to 49 or
All right.
50. There's the image of the decomposing body, and then it shows the girl alive, the same body.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how to interpret. And then, of course, on the next page, 50, I don't know if that's supposed to be the baby doll, or I'm not sure what this is supposed to be, but
Yeah.
does anybody have an interpretation of those pages? Is that what happened to her? It's confusing. It doesn't really show what happened to her. Although
Can you bring it up? So
What do
we
you
can-
mean? What happened?
what I mean is on page 48 and 49,
Yeah. Okay.
right after this image, it shows the little girl, and she's clearly
Yeah.
alive and
Yeah.
full of vitality and life. And
Yeah.
then I suppose she goes into the forest, but you don't see the baby doll that's referenced with the giant, and in fact you don't see her purse. It's not
Yeah.
really,
And then what? But yeah. And then what happens?
and then you see, is that the baby doll?
Well, yeah, she's drawn in the like
She's drawn
definitely
into the
not-
forest.
She's one of the other characters, and she
Okay.
wakes up and she was having a nightmare.
A nightmare.
That's what was happening.
That's what really happened.
Yeah. When you see this part here that you're talking about, yeah, she wakes, she gets up, she walks away, scream. She was having a nightmare.
Oh,
She interprets as a nightmare.
I didn't realize that.
Really?
Thank you.
Well, what? Okay, I mean, yeah, she gets up, she looks around, she dusts herself off, and then
Oh, absolutely.
what were you
now.
thinking what this was about when you saw this? And then she says, nightmare, nightmare. And then she
Mhm.
goes up to she's living inside the skull, and she parts the hair. Phew. She was having, to her, a nightmare of dreaming that the girl was still alive, which of course would screw up her entire living situation if that happened.
She does she realize it's a dead body?
No, I don't think she does. In fact, I see it, David, as she's having a nightmare about what actually happened to the girl. Like she's remembering, like a trauma came back. And then when she wakes up, she says, oh, it was just a bad dream. But the reality is it wasn't a bad dream. It really happened. The body's decomposed, and she's now part of this new savage world.
Ooh, yeah.
There's a bit of a resemblance to the Norse myth there of Odin, and Odin and his brothers kill this giant and construct the universe out of the body of the giant. Like the top of his skull's used to make the vault of the heavens, and his blood to make the sea. And
Ooh.
so in the Norse story, we're all living in a cosmos created from the body of a giant.
Wait, is that Valhalla? I'm not sure.
Stephen, what was the name of the story you just mentioned? The
It's the Norse creation myth.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay.
I just woke up. Metalia's made it.
Sorry?
Metalia, you've made it.
Who made what?
Here.
Oh, that's not my drawing.
What time did you make it? I didn't see you earlier on.
I think I came in at about like 11:40-ish. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
Sorry.
This one I just want to point out here where she's talking with Jane, and Jane says he's dangerous and he stinks worse than anything. And then later that night, she goes and cuts some hair. There's the doll with the smashed head right there on the floor. And then she says, I like this smell. It's strong but sweet. It smells like honey. Yeah, Jane just said, oh, he stinks worse than anything. Yeah, he's this loner recluse hermit in the woods, obviously. But yeah, she's losing her bearings at this point. Smells like honey. I just thought, yeah, that's very subtle, but yeah.
No, I like you pointing out these things.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a great point, David. It's the, what's the word when you end up honoring your captor, something?
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm, thank you.
Well, they weren't, yeah, okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
technically
they
he's
weren't
not a
captured by
captor,
her,
but
but he's the cause of the whole problem because he
Correct.
murdered the girl. So he's the reason the whole thing happened in the first place. Yeah. Yeah. And I just love the artwork myself. I just think,
Oh, I love the artwork.
oh yeah, of course it is. Yeah. Beautiful.
But if you can see him, I see him less as representing the patriarchy, although I think that's a fair interpretation. I think I see him less as a symbol of the patriarchy and more a symbol of just the natural world.
Okay.
That is, you know, the savagery of man, the natural
Mhm.
state of things.
Mhm.
David, technical question. How do you bring that up? Not in a book, the pages like that.
You mean share screen on Zoom?
Well, I know how to share a screen, but how do you find the beautiful darkness laid out in the way that
Well, I'm on a Linux computer system. I think I'm using Document Viewer.
so document viewer.
If you're
you
on
bought-
Windows, yeah.
Did
You
you
would
buy
use-
the digital version?
Oh, is that what it is?
I mean-
If you're on Windows, yeah, you use a comic book reader.
Did you just buy it on Kindle or something or on Amazon? Oh no, you had downloaded it somehow, huh?
We live a pirate's life. Okay.
Can you share it?
If you just had to ask me for the CBR, I would have sent it to you.
Well,
Yeah.
I would like it. Yes, please.
Oh, you said you ordered it from Amazon?
No,
You don't have it?
no. I would like to have the way I would like to be able to have.
Yeah,
the
I know.
format that you
No,
sent.
but you are going to get a physical copy of it, right?
Oh, I have a physical copy.
Oh, okay. there-
I just want to do when I work with my grandson via Zoom, I'd like to be able to have it laid out this way. It would be much easier for us to read.
I
it.
got you. No problem.
What does CVR stand for?
I think it's comic book RAR, like a RAR file, RAR file. Or CBZ, which is comic book zip. Yeah, one or the other.
Is that something you always offer with this group?
Oh yeah, nobody's ever had to buy anything so far.
Oh, great.
Oh, well, I didn't know
And
that.
we've been doing
Yeah,
this for
I
3
didn't
months.
either. I bought it. And I
bought
think
it too.
Afton did too, huh? I mean, I'm glad to have the physical book, but
Yeah, yeah,
let's
No,
get
I
some-
am. I'm glad to have the physical, but it's nice to know.
yeah. No, we've been doing we've done so many different comics. Well, let me give you.
So is this primarily a graphic novels group?
Well, it has been. As I said before, let me quickly get this. I'm open to doing like movies and novels, and I like everything. So I'm open to that conversation if we want to take it in other directions. So far, in the 3 months we've been doing this, we've been going over comics pretty exclusively. We've done, I mentioned we've done From Hell and Love and Rockets and some other stuff. I enjoy comics and I like going over them, but I'm happy to expand it out to movies if we
Well,
want.
I haven't read many graphic novels, but I have the Greek myth series in graphic novels is what's his name? Robert.
Myth Adventures. Oh, those were great books.
Oh my
yeah.
God, they're great. And then
Bill
Funhouse,
Foglio did the.
Funhouse, and what she wrote another one. Those were the first two I ever read. She won the Genius Award. I can't think of her name.
Bill
now.
Foglio did the Myth Adventures. Yeah, no, those are great. Yeah, I remember those books. I used to love those books when I was a kid. Yeah.
So, David, where's the download for the
You
comic?
want it too, Stephen?
Yes, yes, you can give it to me, just like Darth Vader would.
All right.
I do have one more question for the group, if you guys can help me indulge this. I really would like to understand how and why this book came from. These are European authors. Where are they from?
Yeah.
French. They're French.
French? I'd like to understand y'all's interpretation of, sorry, I'm from Texas. Everyone's
You
interpretation
gave it away.
of you know, the role that being French played, or you know, European and or French in the, you know, creation of this story or this myth, because I don't really know what to think, but I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, the way that this played out.
You mean that they didn't have to have a happy ending?
Well, not only that, but you know, what was the motivation of these authors, and what do you think their goal was? You know, not just the ending, but I don't know. Where did this come from, and why did it come out of Europe? Why did it come out of France, and why did it come in this most recent era? I mean, in the modern era, because this is what, 2014.
Yeah. You know, I don't know anything at all about any of these.
Well, I'll take a venture at it. I would guess that Americans have been more in denial of the dark side of what's happening. The Europeans as a whole are more acknowledging it, and therefore they would metaphorically want to put it out there.
Mhm.
The same way their movies don't have to end, you know, tie
Yeah.
it all up with some rainbow.
Yeah. At the same time, you know, notice that it was 2014,
Before
you
the,
know? Yeah.
but we were climate
So,
change, global warming, and that was already getting pretty big.
right.
Talking about 2014 like it's a distance past. Feels
Well,
like it, doesn't it?
It does. Anything
Sort
before
of was.
2016. They were the good old days. There was still hope.
And I would also like to ask Natalia, I don't know if you said that right, but you mentioned that you like manga. I'd be curious, do you see many manga novels that have this sort of darkness to them?
Can't recall, honestly. I haven't really read that much recently, but I used to back then. But it was more of like a, you know, like cheesy romantic manga. So yeah.
Because they have similar characters, right? Like really cute,
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
very sweet, endearing
Very
characters.
sweet, and yeah, they over exaggerate that. Yeah.
I think Akira was pretty dark. Akira was pretty dark.
Well, Akira, I've heard of Akira, but I
You haven't
never
read that?
I did.
Yeah.
I've read Olympus, but I don't think that's actually fitting into the category. Just kidding.
Maybe we'll do Akira next. So yeah, so sooner or
Akira,
later,
yeah, that's a
we're
good
gonna have to
suggestion.
talk, because so far I have just been choosing randomly, and I'm just making all the choices depending on what people like. I'm happy to take suggestions if anybody wants to make any suggestions, something you've always wanted to cover or read. You know, we've done Love and Rockets. I would have wanted to continue that. The thing of it is, so far, From Hell, that took us 8 weeks to do. So I'm kind of been going to short stuff that we can do in 1 week or 2 weeks. From Hell, Fun Home took 2 weeks because that was.
Oh, I wish I'd been here for Fun Home.
You know that one?
Oh, that was my first one I ever read, and I saw the play downtown at
Wow.
Los Angeles. They did it at the Mark Taper Forum.
I haven't seen the musical, yeah, but no, we just did that last week. You just missed it. Yeah, we did From Fun Home. Yeah, Alison Bechdel.
And
that
what's
took
her
2
other
weeks.
one? She has another one.
Well, we've done a lot of different things. We've done Love and Rockets. We've done From Hell.
No, I mean, Bechtel has another one.
Oh, she did. Yeah. What is it called?
I would love to do that one. One was the relationship
Are
with
You
her
My
mother,
Mother?
and yes. Are You My Mother?
Are
Yeah,
You My Mother?
I would
Yeah,
love to
that's-
do that one.
Yeah, I read that one too. I've been doing, a mixture of stuff that I have read and stuff that I haven't read. The danger if I choose something that I haven't read is, of course, that what if it's terrible? Because I don't know. But that could be fun too. I could choose something that's just horrible. 'Cause I
I'm
haven't read it.
tired of sticking it out in book groups with something that is
So there's
horrible and
there's
reading
always
it
that
just
danger.
because it's assigned.
Yeah, yeah. But if I choose something that I already have read that I know, but
You can research too and try to get an
I don't
idea.
want to. I'd rather be surprised,
Oh, okay.
But I have a long list of stuff that I've never read and I've always wanted to get to. So, what would you guys like? What would you most be interested in covering in the weeks to come, if you stick around? And I hope you do.
Well, I'd like something more like this.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not suggesting.
Deep, ethical and philosophical questions.
Yeah.
I'm not
You gotta
suggesting.
get other, going for that.
I'm not suggesting it, but a very famous cartoon film was Twilight of the Cockroaches, Japanese.
Oh, I love I don't know it, but I love Japanese.
Oh, fascinating story. There's this guy, his girlfriend leaves him and he becomes very slovenly and he's leaving a mess all around his house and everything like that. And the cockroaches think, oh, this is great. And they come out at night and don't bother him too much. And he's even lost the resolve to wipe out the cockroaches. And the leader of the cockroaches is convinced that a peace agreement exists between them. So the cockroaches are having a real party. It's like a little human civilization. And then he gets a new girlfriend. She's disgusted at the state of his flat. So they fumigate the place. The cockroaches are convinced this is a war of extermination. Well, the one lady cockroach survives to give birth to a new generation.
So is it well done? I like the.
This is one of the really great, brilliant anime films of all time, I think.
Oh, I would go with that. I love Japanese anime.
I'm not suggesting. I'm just trying to enlighten people that there is this really brilliant story, but it's a film.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting it.
As I said, there is a movie group.
I'm in an all-day film group tomorrow where I have to watch 5 hours of movies after we end here.
Oh, really?
Two Japanese. They're Tokyo Story and 24 Eyes. They're classic Japanese,
Well,
I put the link there. It's at 12:02. There's a link which shows you a short trailer for it, but you can actually watch the whole film on YouTube.
Twilight of Cockroaches.
Yeah, I'm amazed nobody's heard of it. Amazed.
Yeah, I am too, because it sounds like the kind of thing that I like.
Yeah,
but notice the equivalence to this story is also the interesting thing, that the cockroaches are surviving from the giants.
Wow.
I second that, Stephen.
I do too.
And I agree with you, Afton. I mean, I really would love to stay involved in as much as I'm able. And, I love complex stories. This is a complex psychological story. It's philosophical, it's ethical. It raises all those questions, and that would be awesome.
Well, it occurs to me, I just thought of it right now. They've done other stuff, these artists. And I know there's one. I honestly, I don't know anything about it. I don't mind. You want to try your luck and do another one with these artists again next week?
Yeah, but I'd like to do this film first.
Oh, you mean here for the group?
That's what I thought we were voting on.
Okay. I mean, honestly, I've never heard of it. I don't know anything about it, but okay, if everybody would like to, sure, I'm all for it. I'm
up for it. I mean, I can do either way. And David, I'm Afton. I'm up for
Do
anything.
either way too, you
Okay.
know, either way.
Okay, well, let's do it then. All right, Twilight of the Cockroaches for next week,
And
everybody.
do we know where you can get it?
If you need help, I'll get it for you.
Oh, okay. Well, I have Criterion and they have a lot of these, you know. I don't
I'll
know.
put up a link to the full movie.
Do you know anything about torrents and stuff like that, file sharing, stuff like that?
No,
No,
Okay.
not me.
I'm not
So-
that technological savvy, but
Okay.
I'm learning with all these Zoom groups.
If we can get a copy of it, that would be great.
That
If
Oh,
would
you
not-
said it was on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just put the link there. See the last one, Twilight of the Cockroaches. That's a link to the full movie.
Okay, well, there you go. All right, so there you go.
but that's for sale, right?
If it's YouTube, it wouldn't be. for
says-
sale.
Well, the YouTube link you sent was the trailer,
Oh, I've had that. I've had that happen before.
and it says you have to buy the DVD for $15.
Can someone see if it's on Criterion?
Look at the second one that Steven just posted. That looks like it's the full thing.
No, well, I mean, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to list this for the calendar for next Friday, Twilight of the Cockroaches. And same as before, you message me, ask me for well, in this case, it'll be the movie file, and I will share it with you, same as always.
Okay, so do we have your email or what do we do?
The Meetup messaging system,
Oh,
same
through
thing
the
you
meetup,
use
okay.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, that last link's a full movie. There doesn't seem to be any restriction on it.
Also,
Maybe
it
it's
looks like
got
it's
some
on
bits in it.
it's on Prime Video if you guys have
Oh, it is?
Prime.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the Prime where you have to pay extra or just the Prime?
It's just no, it looks like it's on the Prime subscription. If you have Prime, you can watch it.
Okay, great.
All right, Twilight of the Cockroaches it is then. Well,
So you meet every
our
week?
first movie.
Do you meet every week?
We meet here every Friday.
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
going to be on the calendar. So this will be our first movie, actually. That's fine by me. Yeah.
Well, thank
Okay.
you guys. This is fun.
All
Yeah,
right, Aaron.
it's
Yeah.
fun. Great.
Glad to have you guys.
Okay. Have a
And-
great week.
All right.
Good
next
movie
week.
watching.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Good meeting everyone. Good meeting you, Aaron. Or we're already in a group. So see you.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye, everyone.